Hi there.
Hi.
How you doing? We are Levi and
Ann-Sofi.
Johnson, and this is the introductory episode of Fika Time with us. Da, da, da.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you guys. So, introduction. So, Fika, what is it? Fika, long story short, because we recorded this once before. Fika is a tradition in Sweden of taking a break from work, not necessarily from work, but taking a break to have coffee, tea, or like, I don't know, hot drink or hot chocolate or something, along with some like light, like pastries or like small cookies. In short, that's what Fika is. And so, like, we're creating this podcast to give you guys a place to take a break, take some time for yourself, relax, and have some fun in conversation. So, a little bit about us. We are married 2.5 years. We got married not June, December 22nd, 2021, after dating for and being engaged for 68 days.
Yep.
So, yeah, we met on Facebook through a Christian singles group and had something like over 300 hours of conversation by the time we got engaged.
Yeah, we talked a lot, and we talked about important things very quickly.
Yeah.
We're like, I'm ready to be a wife. So,
Yeah.
Are you the husband for me or not? Let's get this.
Yeah, let's get this going.
Let's find out fast and get it done.
Yeah, we're both pretty like direct, authentic people. So we blazed a trail very quickly, 68 days, actually less than that, through like all the deal breakers and deal makers, not only, and so like one of my tenets for relationship is you're only as sick as your secrets. So I believe that's true not only of myself, but also of our relationship and our relationships with others and with God. So during that like dating time, we did our best to reduce secrets. And so that included our like negative secrets or secrets that lean to that side that maybe we wouldn't want everyone to know about. But that also went to our positive secrets, like our dreams, our hopes.
What do I want out of life?
Yeah, exactly. And so, so that's, we met on a Facebook singles group. We dated for...
Well, technically, it depends on when you say the engagement happens, if it's when I get the ring or when he kind of starts telling me, or what do you call it? How he refers to me as his fiance.
Sure, yeah.
He was my boyfriend for all of 6 days.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, we've been there, done that. Can we move on now?
Yeah.
And then he started calling me his fiance, or he asked if he could do that. And I was like, yeah, because we're getting married. And then I got the ring the night before getting married.
Yeah, so yep.
Were we engaged for like a month or for a night?
Yeah, we were unofficially engaged for probably like a month, and then we were officially engaged for like less than 24 hours. Because I informally, indirectly proposed to her. We could go maybe into that story later or now. A month, like she was in Sweden and I was in Montana at the time. And so, yeah, so she said yes within like a few days. And this was like after like not quite a week of being a boyfriend, girlfriend. And so like I like to get right to the point.
And he'd warned me beforehand that by the third date, if things are still going well, I will ask you to be my girlfriend. That was the third official date, and we ended up talking almost every day between then. So I'm like, by the third date, I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, and before I proposed to her, I discovered during conversation, this is a good woman who wants good not only for herself but for other people and also for me.
Yes, he's not excluded from that.
And when I figured that out, in conjunction with her intelligence and her sense of humor and dad jokes and just generally being amazing, I was like, I'm gonna lock this down ASAP. And which I did in haste. And so, yeah. And so like we were gonna get married in Sweden, and we started planning for that. But then she looked into the law and found out it was going to take something like 12 weeks for them to allow us to get married in Sweden.
Yeah, because
if I flew in.
Yeah, because in Sweden they do like basically a background check, relational background check to make sure that you are not related or a close relative to whoever you're about to marry, or that and that you are eligible to get married to one person, because that is the Swedish limit. I'm not sure people in cultures that allow multiple marriages, if I'm not sure what happens there, if it's just the first wife is the official wife and that's where they cut it off, or how they do it. But because he was a foreigner, it would take like maybe a week or 2 weeks or something if he was Swedish. But because he's from America, he would have ended up going into the foreign category, which includes a bunch of people from countries where you marry close relatives and or have multiple spouses. So it would take a while, and their systems may not be super clear, so it would take a while to like sort through what's behind there. Like, is he actually eligible to marry me? So I found that out, and I went, oh shoot, what do I do now? I'm like, Jesus, help! Because 12 weeks, that's 3 months, which is the limit that he would have been allowed to be in actually Europe, not just Sweden, because the EU has special rules, so it's all of Europe, not just Sweden. So that wouldn't work.
Yeah. So she got an idea and texted me and said, hey, like it's going to take 12 weeks. Why don't I fly in and we get married in the United States? And like she was kind of hesitant about the idea at the time, or something to that effect.
I was like, I don't know, is this a good idea or not? I'm not sure. I was also dealing with the previous time to that I visited America. The Border Patrol guy was kind of fuzzy about me entering the country because I'd done it multiple times. Because I would work in the winter, and then I had cheap housing, barely any expenses. So I would work for 6 months and then take 6 months off, which included or more trips out of the country, which usually included at least one to America. So he could see that, and he was like, how can you afford this? Are you sure you're not working here, type of thing? And I'm like, no, I have never worked in America. It's all good.
Yeah.
But because of that, I was like, I don't know what it's going to look like when I cross the border next time, if they're going to be equally fuzzy or even more fuzzy. So before then, I'd been like, I don't want to enter the country unless like I have like more than just a tourist visa, basically. Or like a very clear purpose, like, hey, I'm going to someone's wedding, or like I'm doing this specific thing with an itinerary, which he was surprised I didn't have. And I'm like, I have friends from when I was in school, so I would just be hanging out with them. Like, I don't understand your issues here. But man, that was back then.
So when I got that text that she wanted to fly in to marry me, I was like, oh, that's amazing. I was like super excited because like I was gonna go and marry her in Sweden, but it just wasn't gonna work out well. But it was important that I first be willing to go to her to get her.
Yeah.
Because I'm the leader in the relationship. I'm not the dominator or the authoritarian, but I am a leader, and a leader leads through vulnerability. And so that looks like risk. And so the risk is like me going there. And so, but because I was willing to do that, more than willing, practically excited.
He was already renewing his passport so that he could come.
Yeah, exactly. So when she gave me her idea, I was like, great. So I was like, yeah, let's do that. So we planned that. She flew in. I drove down from Montana to my parents' house in Redding, California. That's where we were going to get married. We live in this van. We're van lifers, so please don't judge us. But you can judge us. It's fine. We don't care. So so I built out this van. I reframed it. I'd been doing van life for years before that. So so I built this out and did some work on the van. Then I went and picked her December 1st. And so I picked her up, and that was the first time we met in person. We hadn't met in person before that. It had been basically through mostly Facebook, like a FaceTime kind of thing.
Video.
Yeah, and so one of the shows that I was really into before that was The Office. So in The Office, if you haven't watched it, spoiler alert, Jim proposes, like one of the main characters proposes to Pam at a gas station in the rain. It doesn't
halfway between the two of them.
Yeah, it doesn't look romantic, but it's like super romantic in the moment because he's just like, I want to marry you now. I want to lock this down. Basically, like leaving San Francisco, one of the comments I made was that, like, I hope it rains.
Yeah, because you told me that beforehand, before I even came in to the country, and I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I know he likes rain, so
yeah,
sure. But it didn't even dawn on me because I haven't seen, at the time, I hadn't seen The Office. I have corrected.
Yeah, we watched it all the way through together.
Yeah, because I'd only seen random episodes previously, but I had not seen that part.
Yeah, and so we're driving, and like, basically, like, it's either raining right away or it starts to rain. And so we pull out of San Francisco like an hour or an hour and a half, something like that, on I-5, and we pull into like a rest stop gas station area where there's like at least a couple gas stations. And so like we pull in there and it's raining, and she goes in to use the bathroom. I get the ring ready, so I got her a moissanite ring.
If you are watching the video,
yeah, if you can see it, a moissanite ring, like a 1 carat, or it's huge. It's just a beautiful ring. It's in the style that she wants. So I get that, and she comes out, and it's raining. It's like almost identical to the scene between when Jim proposes to Pam. So I proposed to Ann-Sofi in the rain under the gas station cover.
Yeah, my side of the car was outside of the cover, and it was literally like a deep puddle. Jump over to get out.
But like the one spot where like I proposed to her is like one of the kind of only dry spots,
Yeah.
sort of. And so she said yes. Here's the ring. Yeah, so we've been married. So that was that evening, and then we got married the next morning at my parents' house. She had her friend Linda over, and I had my friends Brendan and Doug over, and then it was my parents. And so it was a very small wedding. The ceremony plus the first dance was like 15 minutes roughly, and we actually recorded it, so if you want to go look at the very first video on this channel, you can see that. Yeah, so it was only that, and then we live cast it, except the audio, like, I didn't test it. I kind of threw it together in a hurry. The audio didn't work, so people could watch the wedding, but they couldn't hear the wedding over the live cast. We recorded it on a separate camera, and that got the audio, so that's good.
Yes,
and,
very good. There was audio on that one.
Yeah, so yeah, people could go and watch it later if they wanted. But anyways, that was like basically how we got married. We had kind of a honeymoon slash like Christmas period with my parents and family and whoever was there.
We had our honeymoon for a couple of days, went back to his family. First time meeting his sisters and their families. I had talked on, like, we'd had a video chat where I got to meet both of his sisters and his parents beforehand. So, and then I met his parents obviously on our wedding day because they were asleep by the time we got to the house the night before.
Yeah.
So I got to meet his family for Christmas, and then we went on a couple of more days on honeymoon. We did not invite his parents on our honeymoon, just to be clear.
Yeah, no one was invited on our honeymoon. Yeah, so we had a good time, but then we moved to Sweden, to Slagnäs, Sweden, for about 3 months while she finished up her job at a business hotel.
It's this huge place with probably 58 people. That is 58 total, not 58,000 or a million or anything like that.
Yeah, the town. Yeah,
people.
Yeah, not very many people. After 3 months there, in the middle of nowhere, we did make some trips to bigger towns and cities. But like basically, like I was like on my own there while she was working full time, and then she'd come home like in the evening or at night, or I'd actually go pick her up oftentimes.
Yeah, I got my personal chauffeur when I got married.
That's right. Chauffeur is French for slave boy. So I'm her slave boy. I'm kidding. Then we moved to Rosevik, where her parents live, and they have, and we took an apartment in a house that her dad has for his business. So we lived there, and then while we were there, like the church that she grew up in was just down the street.
Just a 10-minute walk or
Yeah.
less.
So
It's less
that's
even.
yeah. So we would attend church there on Sundays. Like I'm not sure if it was all Sundays, but then after the service, they would have Fika. That's where I started having experiences of Fika. So it was like after church, they'd pull out a bunch of snacks, and the tables were already arranged like circular tables with seats around it. And it was just a really cool tradition. And apparently, I learned in the first take of this video that didn't make it. Fika is a tradition for all churches, essentially, throughout Sweden.
They explicitly have fika rooms in churches. Sometimes they lean more sandwiches, which I don't condone as proper fika. But it's because fika is supposed to be drinks and sweets, like cookies and pastries. And in Sweden, there used to be a tradition called 7 kinds of cookies, because when someone had a birthday or you were celebrating something, you had 7 different types of cookies, but like Swedish cookies are like Oreo sized rather than American chocolate chip cookie you buy in the store that's like the size of your head. We can eat 7 kinds of cookies. 7 cookies would be about the same size as 1 American cookie, or the same amount. So there would be cookies, and then maybe cinnamon buns, which are very common in Sweden, and maybe like a sponge cake, different types like that.
Come on. And so that's where I got to know Fika, like as a cultural tradition and a church tradition. And so it's not only a tradition at church in Sweden, but also a tradition at work. So I think it's around, like you said, like 10 or 11 a.m.
So it's usually 9 o'clock in the morning, because like 10, 11, 12, sometime during that time is lunch. So they have a fika break before lunch, a couple of hours into your workday, so that people can get their coffee, which usually can also includes a little maybe snack. Like they have 1 box of cookies that people can take some if they want.
Yeah, and so and the tradition of Fika was apparently, what I read, is born out of a period of time in Sweden where coffee was made illegal. And so I guess they maybe changed the language, or like people continued to drink coffee, but like on the down low. So to my knowledge, Fika developed out of that tradition. Later, they would decriminalize coffee.
Swedish people really like coffee. They drink it black usually and strong. Like 5 cups a day is normal. Like you're in some places, if you drink 5 cups a day, it's like that's too much. In Sweden, it's like, well, that's because you have
that's normal.
Yeah, because you have the 9 o'clock coffee, and then you have the after lunch coffee, and then you have the 2 o'clock, also another fika break coffee, and then maybe when you get home from work, and maybe you had one when you woke up as well. So
wow, that's a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
I do not drink that much coffee, but I do enjoy coffee. Ironically, Ann-Sofi does not like coffee or the smell of it, like at all, unless it's couched under layers of sweetness or mint or chocolate or a combination thereof.
Yeah, one of those doesn't cut it. I need all of them. I need, like, the peppermint mocha is the only coffee drink that I have drank that I was like, I can do this, and that is barely considered coffee.
So like that's kind of our story, like for this introductory video.
Yeah, and I just want to add that I got my mom's wish by marrying someone who likes coffee, because she's the only one in my family who drinks coffee. So now I added one more.
Yep. So like me and her mom have that love of coffee in common, and her and I don't, which by some miracle we're married, maybe because I think she's a hottie and she thinks I'm a hottie, and so
And he's also smart, so
that's what I've heard.
Win-win.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing from her and my own mind. How much of a genius I am. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I didn't say genius. I just said smart.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, not that smart. Just, good enough. So why Fika Time as a show or podcast or whatever you want to call it?
Or you're watching it or listening to it.
Yeah, exactly. Why? Because we want to build community. We're authors, and so we want people to be aware of us and our books. But we, to the glory of God, and with God's help, we've built like a beautiful relationship between us. And so, but we want to like extend that, and we want to build a community of people who are like dorky and nerdy and fun and tell dad jokes. And one of the things we do is we study Korean for fun, and we watch Korean TV shows and very occasionally a movie, and listen to quite a bit of Korean music. We're international travelers, but we want to invite you guys into our adventures and into our community, and to give you a place to like kind of like, we're going to talk about all kinds of things. So hopefully politics don't come up too much, but we want it to be a fun, community oriented, authentic place that you guys can enjoy and come on the journey with us. We said like married just over 2.5 years. We want kids. We're hoping to have 5 kids altogether, maybe 5 dozen kids. It just depends on how it works. But we love kids, and like I personally, just as a kind of a background for me, I was raised in and around in California. I was born on June 30th, 1980. Worked in construction, lens crafters, Starbucks, delivering newspapers. I've had a couple of my own businesses at the very least in my 20s. Then when I was about 30, I went to South Korea for what would end up being 3.5 years. I taught English as a second or foreign language. I ended up getting my master's degree in teaching English to speakers of other languages. And then I taught in China at some universities there in Harbin, Bengbu, and Beijing for about 3.5 years altogether. Returned to the United States. I became a truck driver and then got disenfranchised with that, and went to Saudi Arabia to teach for a bit longer. And then that didn't work out. Very different culture from America. And returned to the United States and went into food delivery along with my attempt at online business. And during that time got into van lifing and set up a solar system in this van. Ended up in 2021 meeting her, and then obviously that story. That's like just a very brief synopsis of my background. I love foreign languages. I've written multiple books, and I really enjoy helping people grow and learn about themselves. I'm what you would call an amateur personologist and an amateur like engineer. Yeah, so that's a bit about me. What about you, babe?
I am a human.
Honey, don't share so much. Please hold back.
Well, I wasn't quite sure when I was a kid because both of my parents have Masters of Science and are engineers. And my mom used to do more CAD and like drawings. And I think it's like materials. Whereas my dad is an electronics engineer and developer. So he developed electronics and started his own business when I was like 6 or 7. So I grew up with computers and cables and everything. And I have an older brother who's a year and a half older than me. So when he was 3, my dad was doing the sound for a conference, and my brother like held up a random cable and went, "Is this a coaxial cable?" I don't know how to pronounce that in English because he speaks. Yeah. He spoke Swedish. He was 3. He did not speak English yet. So I'm like, that's kind of what I grew up with. I kept considering myself not very good at technology because I was the worst in my family, but then coming out in other circumstances and realizing that my limited knowledge is a lot more than most other people's because it's innate rather than learned. Well, I learned it, but not on purpose. So I come from that. When I was in Sweden, high school is kind of like you pick a major and a minor already. So I chose the technical line with a minor in industrial design. So the technical line is for people to then continue on in university, which I did not end up doing. I ended up going to Bible schools and ministry schools instead because I went on a mission trip when I was 16 and I was like, this is awesome. I want to do this. I have friends my own age who are passionate about Jesus.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, so I've traveled with YWAM Orlando since I was 16. So every summer, 16, 17, and 18, I traveled with YWAM Orlando. I did one trip in the winter time with YWAM Rovaniemi, that's in Finland. And then in 2007, we went to Mongolia. So we took the train through Russia and then met up with the Americans who flew in through China. So that was an experience. So yeah, when he said we're well-traveled, I do have some travel, like only like 16 countries or something and 5 continents. So I'm well-traveled, learned English by watching too much TV when I was 12. It just clicked. We'd learn it from like first grade in Sweden too, but it wasn't clicking and I didn't quite understand it and then until I watched too much TV and then started going on mission trips with Americans and then it tipped over even more. Hence my mostly like 99.9% American accent. Certain words and certain times, some words will come out giving my origin away, but usually people just think I'm from somewhere else that speaks English. So that's what I did for most of my 20s. And then my late 20s, I ended up getting a job as a hotel receptionist, which is something I really enjoy. I like paperwork and people. So getting the combination of those two was great for me. I worked at a business hotel, like he mentioned earlier, where I'm still under an NDA, so can't really share about that yet.
But I can.
So there's that, and then in the summertime, that was my winter job there was 4 years in a row that I worked there, and then 2 seasons before then, I worked for half a season. So my first job as a receptionist was at night at the business hotel, and then I worked for a year where I worked 2 summers, and then I worked extra during the winter time at a resort hotel that included cabins and a campground that during the summer, official summer times, the campground was closed and the cabins were closed, but they had other things like dining and kids' playthings and go-karts. That may have been right next door, but we were still needing to inform people about it. So I have not only done like the simple, here's your room key and here's a list of places to go eat. My job has usually included a lot more, especially at the business hotel because there's security involved as well. So yeah. That's a little bit about me. And then I married him and became a published author.
Yeah. And so for the last, since we got back from living in Sweden, we've been doing food delivery like Uber Eats, DoorDash for a while, Instacart, which we actually enjoy the most because we can like do it as a couple. She's amazing at finding things in the store. And so like I had my own system, but then I learned from her. So I kind of got the finder's anointing. So thank you, Jesus, for that.
Yeah, that is my superpower, is finding things. I have literally someone asks, oh, where's this thing? I go, oh, it's there. And then I turn and look and I'm like, oh, it is there.
That's how she found me. And so like we've done that. And then I built a large solar system on this van. About 7 solar panels altogether. Technically, we should be able to get, I don't know, maybe 2,000 watts. We don't usually get that much, I don't think, but built that out with a 48-volt battery and the commensurate charge controller inverter, all the technical stuff. But anyways, we built that out, and so we use that power to crypto mine, and we get paid in Bitcoin, which is super fun. So we make money kind of passively wherever we go that has sun. So I enjoy doing that. Before and during our marriage, altogether, I've published 4 books, and I primarily write non-fiction. So I write books that are like intellectually challenging and designed to help people develop personally. And what about your books?
I write fiction. So I had a story in my head since I was 25. So I had it in my head for like 7 years before meeting him and putting it on. He gave me a template, and so I filled it out and finished the story finally. And then I published it. It's called The Blizzard. When snow isn't the only thing building up. So I wrote that book, and then I started writing a book called, well, the first book in a series called The Prophetic Detective. The first book is Kidnapped. And that book, I started off with a main character that I didn't like. I rewrote the whole thing, basically, with someone who is competent. It took me a while to like feel like I was ready with that one. So during the time that I was kind of processing upgrading that book, I put together a baby planner, because while we were dating, I had a daily planner, and when we went on our first date, I felt like I want to keep notes. I don't know what's gonna happen, but with this guy, I kind of want to keep notes just in case. So I kept notes of all of our conversations since the first date, where I went, okay, we chatted today, we didn't talk today, or we had a video call, or only chat, or something significant that happened during that conversation, so I can look back on all the important dates.
Yeah.
And so when we started trying for kids, I was like, I want that for babies too. Like, I don't want to be missing out. And so I put together my own baby planner, because I realized that the ones that were out there were kind of negative and very focused on symptoms, and kind of going, you will have morning sickness and you will experience all these different symptoms. And I don't receive that, because we're not under the curse anymore. And the curse is pain in childbirth and a bunch of other things. And
as Christians,
as a Christian, I'm not under that. So I wanted to make my own baby planner where I would feel more encouraged. So I created that, and then I created some prayers to go along with each month or trimester, and had my husband help me put some good prayers in there. So I created that, and I think I finished that one, and then I still didn't want to quite work on The Prophetic Detective yet, so I translated my first book into Swedish, and that only took a couple of weeks. So my very first book is actually available in Swedish and English. In Swedish, it's called Snökaos, or Snow Chaos would be direct translation, because the blizzard just becomes snowstorm, and that's kind of boring. So Snow Chaos in Swedish. And then I was like, okay, now I'm ready to tackle The Prophetic Detective. So I went through it, and I finally published The Prophetic Detective after like a year and a half of working on it total. So in beginning of June, that also got published. So now I'm kind of like self-published on Amazon.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care for the normal process of giving my book to someone else, where they will maybe not even read it, or a publishing company that gets a ton of people wanting to publish their books, and then me needing to adjust according to their standards or their input, instead of going for what I believe what I want to share.
Yeah.
So I'm open to input, but not to the detriment of what it is I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have also 4 things for sale, but they are 2 novels one translation, and one baby planner.
Come on. Yeah.
The Supernatural Baby Planner.
Yeah.
It's the name of it.
So that's kind of us. And so like our plans, and we'll wrap up here soon. For this podcast, it's going to be a variety show. So we'll have discussions between us, discussions about relationships,
Personalities, probably.
Personality types. I'm an ENTP, if you're familiar with Myers-Briggs. She's an ENFP. So we like mesh well. People who are intuitives tend to have similar language. So we'll probably talk about personality, strengths, if you're familiar with Strengths Finder 2.0, psychometric assessments. We may do like not really reviews of Korean TV shows, maybe, but like maybe react videos. And then like maybe politics. As you can see, we're kind of long-winded. We tend to go into things in detail. So
that's how our first date ended up being 7 hours.
Yeah. This podcast certainly won't be 7 hours. So that's the ride that you'll be going on. A ride. We value authenticity. We value speaking directly while also being kind, like speaking the truth as much as possible, and secret minimization relative to the degree of commitment and intimacy in that relationship. So, you'll get a window into our lives and to the adventures that we go on intellectually, emotionally, etc.
And maybe physically, because we've been around the country twice.
Yeah,
we do talk about something like that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. We do travel quite a bit. Like right now, we're in Sand City, California, next to Monterey. But before this, basically, we were in Redding, then before that, Idaho, and then like we've been all over the place this year, and we've been through like 35 plus states in the last couple of years. We want to invite you into this journey, and just thank you for your time. It's just an honor to have you with us on this journey.
Thank you for watching and listening to this entire podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Video. Thank you so much for your time. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find me on social media on Nostr or Twitter at Levi Writes Books. And you can also find my books at levijohnson.net.
So for me, I'm also on X, I guess it's called now, at Ann-Sofi Novelist, or Ann-Sofi Johnson.com is the other name. I don't know which one pops up, which is also my name on Nostr, and it's my website. That's where you go to find my books.
So you go to
Ann-Sofi.Johnson.com.
Yeah. And
it's ANNSOFIK Johnson.
Thank you so much for your time. 안녕히 계세요.
I'm still working on Korean. Hello. That's Swedish. That's a lot easier.
Bye-bye.
Bye.